This is the fourth video in the series. So we've been trying to finish up the buttons under home, and I've been trying to split them up into smaller chunks of videos rather than doing it all together. So we're going to come to this styles section and understand what the styles are. Till now you looked at it that I can highlight something and I can make it no spacing so that it becomes a certain style, which in this case no spacing means everything should be lined one after the other, so there are no space empty lines, and the font is Calibre and the size is 11. Now for example, if you wanted to make it so that all the fonts for no spacing are size 12, all you have to do is right click on it and then go to modify, and then you can choose the font size to be 12, and then I'll tell it to automatically update, so that it will automatically update the whole document. And I can also choose whether I want it only in this document or I want new documents based on this template. That means every time I start Microsoft Word, it should automatically be size 12. So I'll just leave it at this point right now. I click OK, and you'll find, look on the top, 12. So everything is now 12 font because I have modified it. Now if I right click and modify it, I can modify it to colors. I can choose a different color and a lot of other things by going to format or even changing the font type. So I'll teach you how you can create your own style, because I don't want to change the styles which are already there, and how you can use it. So besides the no spacing, if I highlight my name, I can make it heading 1. So you see it becomes a certain way, size 16 with a color. I can make it heading 2. I can make it a title style, a subtitle, or there should be something else, a book title. So there are lots of different options available, and I can make it go back to no spacing. Now what I want to do is I want to create my own style so that I can apply it. So here's the idea that you can think about why this could be useful. Say you were writing a research paper, and in this research paper was 200 pages long, and you're gonna have, like, say, hundreds of different headings like this, heading 1, heading 2, and you're not sure what style to apply there because you're changing your mind. Now if you had 50 different headings, and if you change your mind, you have to go back and change it all the time. So what I can do is I can create a new style, apply that style to those headings, and just keep on modifying these styles. So let me show it to you what I mean. So I'm just going to put my cursor next to where I want to apply that style, and I'll click here and then choose create a style, and then I'll give it a name. So I can give it my name, Amir, and I can modify it. So there's my name. It's going to be based on no spacing, which is fine, and I'll say let's give it some kind of a style. So I'll choose something, and I'll choose a font, and I'll choose a color just to show you. And what I'll tell it that to automatically update. And as I mentioned earlier, if you want this style available in all the other Word files, then I'll have to choose the new document based on this template, and I'll click OK. So you see it applies it, and now what I'll do is I'll double click on Format Painter, and then I'll highlight heading 1. So heading 1 changes, and you see my tabs in the previous video, they didn't change because they cannot go beyond the 6 inches. I'll highlight it. I'll click on this or highlight this heading 1. I'll highlight this heading 1. Scroll down. That's it. Okay, and I'll press the Format Painter one more time to turn it off. So now if I right click on this style Amir and I modify it, and say I change the color to something else, and I click OK, they should all have changed. For some reason they didn't change. For some reason when I use the format painter, it didn't apply the style properly, because you see when I click here the style is Amir, but when I click here the style is no spacing. So I don't know why. I've seen this work before, so I'll highlight it, make it Amir style. It usually works. I'll highlight it, Amir style. I wonder if this tab is having an effect. I highlight this and I'll make it Amir. Now let's see. I'll come back up, click here, right click, go to modify, and I'll choose a different color. Let's see, click OK, and you see all of them changed. So this is a really good way to make sure that you don't have to repeat your work. You can just apply the styles where you want it so that it gets done automatically. And the good thing is there is a lot of other things you can modify, like format, the paragraphs. You can apply it for many different things. You can create styles for paragraphs and you can keep on applying it. So it's a really good way of doing this. And you can always go back even here and you'll see options to do things. And you can remove it from here if you didn't need it. So this is what's called styles, and you learn how to create your own styles. The next thing I want to talk about, which will be the last section in the home button, is the finding and replacing. Finding means, as the word implies, that find a certain word. So if I click find and I say find Toronto and I hit enter, it highlights the first Toronto. And there is only one result. Okay. And if I type something else, heading, and it shows me, see, it tells me 4 results, heading 1. So now you can, this is a new feature that I can scroll through the one right from here. So if I type something else, now we see it starts highlighting all the words and it can take me to those sections. So find means find me a word, because when you have a lot of pages, how do you get to it? And there is the option called replace. Replace means find a certain word and then replace it with something else. So if I click replace and I choose type the word heading and I say replace it with let's see, I'll say replace it with test. Now I can go replace one at a time. So if I hit find next, it highlights the first one, I hit replace, now it goes to the next one. Or I can just replace all together, and let's see. So all the headings have been turned into test. And if I wanted to reverse the process, I always like to click on the top, so it will start from the top, go to the bottom. I go back to replace. And now with the replace window, I'll have to reverse the step, type test, and then say I'm going to replace it to heading, and I can replace all. So that's one basic idea of replacing. Now I'm going to show you an intermediary feature of replacing. That is, say I had certain words which were bold and I wanted to change all the bold words to not bold. Okay, so I'm not trying to change a word, I'm going to change a format. So I'm just going to make a certain words, I'm going to highlight this, make it bold. And this could be any format. I'll just keep it to the minimum right now so that you can understand it. So that is bold, and this one. So I think I've made 4 words bold. I don't think so there's anything else in the document. So I want to find all the bold words and change it to not bold using the replace. So I click on replace. Now I'm not looking for a word in the find option, so I'm going to remove that. And I also don't want to replace it with a word, so I'll remove that too, and I'll come back to find and I'll click on more. And in the format button here on the bottom, I'll click it and I'll choose font. And I'll say find bold. And I'll click OK. So you see in the find option it says font bold. So that is find the bold. Now I'll go to replace and I'll go back to format, font, and I'll say replace it to not bold. And I'll click OK. Now again I can do find at a time, or I'll just do replace all, and it says 4 replacements done. I'll click OK, and now let's see, there is no bold here. Okay, so this is the way you can do replacing formats. So that's under replace. And whenever you want, I can even click on no formatting so that it will remove the formats. If there was a lot of information there, I can just click no formatting to remove it, and I can go back to format, font, and I can find a certain font, colors, underline, whatever it is that I wanted to find in terms of formats rather than Word. I can find it and then replace it with something else. And before I end this video, I'm just going to talk about some important elements that is to do with margin. So I added some more content to my material. So I have 2 pages. Scroll back up. I'll show it to you in my print preview by going through this print preview button, which I had added from here, and then choosing the print preview. So here it's showing me my 2 pages. If you don't see the 2 pages, just use the minus sign on the right hand side bottom. Reduce the zoom so it will show you 2 pages. So there's page 1 and there's page 2. So what I want to do is I want to change this to, I want to make it fit in 1 page somehow. So I'll show it to you how you can start doing this. So the first thing you can do is you go to page layout. There is a tab called page layout, and in the margins you can reduce the margin from normal, because right now it is leaving 1 inches on all sides. You can make it narrow. So now we see the margins became 0.5 inches on all sides, and I'll go to print preview, and you see the information is now fitting in 1 page. So even if I do that, yeah, it is fitting in 1 page. And you can always go from margins, you can go to custom margin, so that you can choose what you want. You may want to have 0.6 on the top, 0.6 on the bottom, and 0.6 on the left and right, or any other combination you want. You can choose that, and I can click OK. So now it is 0.6 inches. Along with that, you can also have the option for orientation. Orientation means, do you want your page to be standing up or sideways? If I make it sideways, let's see what it looks like by going to print preview, and you see now it is sideways, it is not landscape. And you can also make the changes from here. So you see, if I change it to portrait, now we see it is standing up. When I make it landscape, it's sideways. And you can also change the margins from here. While you are in the print preview, you don't have to go back to that window under page layout. And just one small thing which is very useful and interesting is, say if I highlight, I'll come down further. I have all these paragraphs, I can highlight it, and I can split it into 2 columns. So in the page layout there is an option called columns, and I can split it into 2. So there it is. I can even split it into 3, or I can split it in this design where more is on the left and less on the left and more on the right. So make sure to highlight, and don't highlight any empty lines. And I can also make it look like this, more to the right, less to the right, more to the left, or I can go back to being 1. So that's under page layout. You can change your margins, orientation, or you can affect your column. So we are pretty much done with all the buttons under home, and we did the page layout. In the next video we'll talk about inserting things. Thank you for watching. So that it will automatically update the whole document. And I can also choose whether I want it only in this document or I want new documents based on this template. That means every time I start Microsoft Word, it should automatically be size 12. So I'll just leave it at this point right now. I click OK, and you'll find, look on the top, 12. So everything is now 12 font because I have modified it. Now if I can make it heading 2, I can make it a title style, a subtitle, or there should be something else, a book title. So there are lots of different options available, and I can make it go back to no spacing. Now what I want to do is I want to create my own style so that I can apply it. So here's the idea. Right click and modify it. I can modify it to colors. I can choose a different color and a lot of other things by going to format or even changing the font type. So I'll teach you how you can create your own style, because I don't want to change the styles which are already there, and how you can use it. So besides the no spacing, if I highlight my name, I can make it heading 1. So you see it becomes a certain way, size 16 with a color. This is the 4th video in the series. So we've been trying to finish up the buttons under home, and I've been trying to split them up into smaller chunks of videos rather than doing it all together. So we're going to come to this styles section and understand what the styles are. Till now you've looked at it that I can highlight something and I can make it no spacing so that it becomes a certain style, which in this case no spacing means everything should be lined one after the other, so there are no space, empty lines, and the font is Calibre and the size is 11. Now for example, if you wanted to make it so that all the fonts for no spacing are size 12, all you have to do is right click on it and then go to modify, and then you can choose the font size to be 12, and then I'll tell it to automatically update.